Good morning and welcome to another pre-market review session with the Market Trader. My name is Ray, the Market Trader. And before we get started, just want to remind everyone that the content that is being distributed by the Market Trader is for general purpose only. So let's go ahead and review the rest of this disclosure here. Okay, so just to remind everyone again that the content that's being offered here is for general purposes only. None of the information provided here is intended as investment advice and offer to buy, sell, recommend, endorse, sponsor any security, company, or fund. We all understand that the use of this information is to be used at your own risk, and the company, as partners, representatives, employees, contractors assume no responsibility or liability for misuse of such information. Future trading does carry a fair amount of risk, not for every investor. An investor has the potential of losing all or more of their investment capital. Only risk capital that you should only be using capital that you can otherwise afford to lose without jeopardizing one's financial security. Again, nothing contained herein is a solicitation or an offer to buy, sell futures, options, or Forex, and then past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning, Lane. All right, it's just one here. So now that we've gotten through the risk disclosure, guys, we're going to go ahead and turn our attention over to the news portal here, okay, and see what kind of news we have today that could potentially impact the markets. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and stop here, and we're going to begin to share here risk disclosure. There, oops. That's not what I wanted to do. I did the same thing twice. Here we go. All right. I think this is the correct. All right. Let's move up here. Okay. So hopefully that's visible to everyone, guys. So if I can get maybe a little bit of confirmation there that it's visible, I'll go ahead. So, okay. Excellent. All right, so looking at what's it's kind of a scary day, guys. Friday the 13th here, guys. So in any case, fair amount of news that is being published at the moment here, right? We have CPI, month over month, and then we have core CPI year over year. Okay, all reporting as we speak. Okay, so. You can see the red dots and the red lightning bolts here on the left-hand side. Well, that indicates that it has the possibility of potentially impacting the markets here. Okay, so but the good news is that we get the news out of the way, and hopefully maybe the markets will normalize. Now, I do see that maybe there was some negative reaction here, at least on the ES, but we'll go ahead and take a look at that here in a moment. All right, so. First, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to the charts, and we're going to go ahead and start with the gold market, like we normally do. Okay. Let's see. Bring this up here, and we'll pull this up here, and we will share that screen. Okay. All right. There it is. So let's go ahead and pull up the gold market here. All right. So looking at the gold market, we're going to go ahead and turn off all our drawings here. Just make it a very clean look here. We'll go ahead and also turn off initial balance. We'll start off with a daily chart. Collapse this here a bit and see, okay, well, what kind of market are we in? Well, again, a market that continues to remain in some sort of range is the market that we're in at the moment. Okay, so yesterday we had a little bit of a sell-off in gold. Today we're back with some bullish price action. Okay, so again, if I'm to, again, we can see that we are in some sort of consolidation pattern here, right? So we're in consolidation. We're not in trend. Makes it for maybe a little bit more difficult to, locate opportunities because you need further context in the market to really provide you direction here. Right now on the daily, it's not really giving us anything in the way of direction. It's telling us that we are in an area of some balance. We had obviously a very strong move there to the downside on the daily. We moved off of this upper end of this triangle pattern and closed the day breaking or making new lows. Now the question becomes, are we going to continue and maybe revisit some of these lows here? Right now, the bottom of this channel is indicating that we have the potential of coming back down to say 48.50 before we see any new highs in this market. Okay, so let's go ahead now and move on to the 4-hour chart. 4 hours telling us much of the same. We're getting a little bit after that little sell-off that we have into the. Oh, so it looks like we had a little sell-off yesterday. Is this Thursday? Yeah. So this looks like happened. Uh, Yeah, during the US session, okay. And then ever since that point, we kind of consolidated, right? So, this looks more like a retracement than any sort of impulsive move to the upside. Now, what looks like impulsive is the move that we received lower. That looks like it's impulsive, okay? So again, similar to what we saw on the daily chart, 4-hour really is not giving us much insight other than the fact that we remain in some sort of consolidation pattern. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the 30-minute chart. Let's see what kind of insights we can pull from this 30-minute chart. We can see that price is above a very flat VWAP, very relatively flat 9 EMA. So again, indicating to us that there is market is in some sort of range. Okay, that we are in some sort of ranging market here. And looking at the next thing here, we're going to look at is the fixed range volume profile. Possibly this move here could have caused us to maybe fall below value here. So we'll double confirm that. So we'll start here as the start of the session, drag that across to the close of the session. And actually, you can see that now with some of the activity that we've had in the overnight, that we are technically above value, right? So the value range, 70% of the price action kind of took place during the U.S. session in this area. And now technically price is above value, but not overly so. Okay, so it looks like it's having a little bit of challenge here, staying above 5,000. Okay, right now we're trading at 5,005. Okay, and we're getting a little bit of it in the way of a selling wick here at the moment that's developing. Okay, let's go ahead now and take a look at the initial balance ranges across the various markets here. We're going to go ahead and start off with Asia here, and just to get a sense of what Asia was able to do with this market. Well, Asia wasn't really able to do much of anything, right? It remained in range for most of Asia, right? We took a peek above, moved lower, tested the low end of initial balance, came back to the 100% extension of initial balance. And then again, we came back to the upper end of initial balance. Okay. So other than this initial impulsive move that we had in the early part of the Asia session, we remained in range and continue to remain in range into London. Okay. So London continued to keep this market into range. They actually took a peek below. So Asia brought it higher, ranged. London brought it lower, and then continued in this range that we've been talking about. Now they are attempting, or London is price is attempting to get above the initial balance range from London, but has not yet been successful in accomplishing that. We won't know exactly whether this is going to succeed here for probably another 15 minutes or so. But nonetheless, it does appear that we continue to be in some sort of range. Now, what is again a little bit ominous here, right? So again, as I mentioned, the bigger moves that are happening in this market right now seem to be to the bearish side. They want reasons. Okay, it looks like participants want reasons to sell. Okay, and then we recover. Okay, so I'm going to be quite leery. Okay, as price, assuming that price continues higher here, I feel like the market is still under watch from the sellers. Okay, and as a result, we could expect there's always a possibility that the market could again continue to the downside as we approach some of these levels. Okay, these kind of candles don't get produced by the average retail seller. These are institutional. These are institutional bars, right? So these institutional bars, they generally protect their positions. Okay, for one. So I'm assuming that if price is to come back to this 50-60 level or 50-75, okay, that they may return. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. So as we head into the New York session, I'm going to give it a neutral to bearish kind of rating. And I guess my reason for the bearish is the fact that if I look at all these candles that we've had over the last few days, okay, the strongest of the candles between the buyers and the sellers have been to the bearish side. Okay, and the result of that, until we can now break above 50-90, right? Well, my view on this is going to be to the bearish side. Now, can we spend some time in this area between where we're at now and up to 50-60? Absolutely, because that will actually repair a little bit of this volume profile that we have here on the right. Okay, because there's a big hole in this volume profile, right? This distribution curve that we have here on the right hand side. So in this session, could we expect price to kind of meander its way inside this area to kind of fill out this area some? Absolutely. So I feel like this is probably more of a repair day, right? Not necessarily a directional day, and that we're going to spend price inside this candle here, kind of repairing a little bit of this volume profile that we have here. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead now and move on to so I'm going to go with a neutral rating on the gold market. I don't anticipate that we are going to move in some sort of directional move, strong directional move to the upside at the moment. I feel like we are maybe a little bit in somewhat of bearish control here at the moment. Now, should price get above, like we had mentioned, 5,100, and with some volume, maybe I change my tune. But right now, I would say that we are neutral to bearish in the gold. Okay, looking at the silver market. Same sort of view here, guys. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here at the daily chart. Looking at the daily chart, we are at the bottom end of the range, right? An area that we would normally expect to get some sort of reaction. The reaction has been a bit muted. Okay, so this is an area where we did kind of how we say, right? We took a price moved higher the last time we were in this area. Price took a significant move to the downside, and you would expect to have some buyers here, but the buyers are weak, right? They haven't even been able to take price back to the 50% of this range. So what is this an indication of? Well, the indication is that maybe there is a lot of sellers in this market. Okay, and assuming if we do break, then I don't see the reason why we don't come back and maybe potentially revisit some of these pockets of consolidation. Okay, so I would say that we are in a relatively important area in the silver market. Okay, if we are going to remain bullish, which I think there's already been a little bit of a change in sentiment here with this bearish candle on the daily side. If the bulls are going to make a stand, well, this is probably an important area to make a stand. Okay, so we need to see if we can get price above 84. Okay, because I do see, again, this will probably be a little bit clearer here on the 4-hour. I do see that maybe we've created a little bit of a demand zone here. Okay, a little bit of a demand zone here around 75. Right? We have not made a new low recently. So if we hold this level, it creates a little bit of a demand zone support area for maybe a leg higher. Okay. But we need to hold right above 65. Okay. In order for that to take place. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart. We're going to go ahead and turn off our initial balance ranges here and take a look and see what we can come up with here in this market. Just going to go ahead and expand this here a little bit. Okay. So again, I don't know, maybe there is a little bit of a bottoming pattern. I don't know if this is a reverse reverse, maybe possibly reverse head and shoulder pattern that's developing here. I don't know. I'm looking at this. I seem to think this is, depending on your orientation here. If I'm going, this would be kind of the right shoulder, I guess, right? The right shoulder. This would be the head, right? Right, head, and this would be the left shoulder. Again, orienting myself, right shoulder, and not in the context of looking at it, but in reverse. This would look more like this pattern here. So could this be a bottoming pattern that's developing in the gold market, not gold, in the silver market? Possibly, because I also, again, as a result of this, I see a little bit of a pattern here, right? So is this going to offer us maybe a leg higher? Because we are, as I mentioned earlier, developing a little bit of a demand area here. Okay. So that's kind of my view that I see on the it seems to be developing a little bit of a bottoming pattern, and that bottoming pattern eventually will result in some sort of leg to the high, to the upside, assuming that what I'm seeing is accurate. Okay. Just like the gold market, we need to see a newer high. Okay. So we need to get above 86, okay, to kind of restore whatever bullish structure that we're in, okay, or not in. Right now we're in bearish structure, but if we are going to restore, or even begin to think about bullish structure, I would say that we need to get a new high made here. Okay, right now we've made some lower lows, and these lower lows will basically says that we are in some bearish structure at the moment in the silver. Taking a look at the 30-minute chart. 30-minute chart, we are developing a little bit in the way of a bullish engulfing candle, which is an indication of maybe that we'll potentially get indication of buyers potentially stepping into this market. If I look at the fixed range volume profile here and kind of compare where price is in relation to yesterday's price action, so we'll go ahead and do this. We'll locate the start of Thursday here, and then take that all the way to the close of Thursday. You can see that we are technically similar to what we saw in gold. We are at the upper end of value, or above value, I should say, right here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and mark that in blue. I like marking my balance areas in blue. So assuming that we can hold above this level, above 77.80, let's say, then and potentially break above this 78 level, maybe we can repair some of this gap that we've left as a result of this move here to the downside. Now, I will say that this move does not feel like as impulsive as, say, the move that we received to the downside in yesterday's session. Okay, right? This does not look like this kind of move. So again, I'm kind of leery. Certainly we can certainly revisit some of these areas repair some of this bearish activity we had, but this does not feel like an impulsive move to the upside. This feels more like a bearish move, and that this is more of a retracement, okay, for the possibility of another continued move here to the downside. That's what it looks like to me. This is not this is consolidation here, right? This is all consolidation. This is the impulsive move that we received. So again, we need to be leery, okay, that we could have sellers step in and continue to move this market lower anywhere in this area here around 82, 80. All these levels could offer us a location where we could have the sellers step right back into this market to the downside. Okay. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the initial balance ranges across the various sessions here, but it does look like it's been pretty neutral. We'll start off with the Asia session here and take a look. Asia session was initially higher, okay, came back to the initial balance range into the VWAP and offered us a nice leg to the upside. London also a little bit, I guess, has come back to become a little bit more neutral, a little bit of a failed auction, or a delayed failed auction, but a failed auction nonetheless. We got a push down to the downside, and now we've rotated all the way to the other side of the range. So again, indicating that maybe we are in some sort of range right? Asia was for the most part bullish. London probably a little bit more in the way of neutral here. Okay, so again, similar to what I've mentioned here in the for the gold market, I think also applies to the silver market, and I would say again, more of a neutral rating here. I am cognizant of the fact that we had a pretty strong sell off in this market, and I can't imagine that they're just going to forget the reasons that they used to, the reasons that these institutions use to sell. Right, I think still applies. The fundamental reasons that they use to sell still apply, and that this move right here feels more like a retracement move, and that at some point in the upper end of this area, should it reach there, that sellers will step back into this market. Okay, so we're going to go with a neutral to bearish rating in this market. Even though we are seeing a little bit of some bullish price action, I still feel like we are in bearish control here. Okay, all right, let's go ahead now and take a look at the crude oil market. Looking at the crude oil market, has offered us again similar bearish kind of activity of late. Okay, thought we were kind of getting into a place where maybe the price would start to move higher, but looks like some sellers have stepped into this market. Okay, we had a very strong bearish engulfing candle recently. Okay, and you can see that the market remains in a range, right? If I can contain price in a box, then we know that we are in some sort of range price action. Okay, we're not if I can't contain price in a box, and I see price candles kind of peeking its way above, well, then I know that I'm in some sort of trend, right? So that's kind of how I use that. So daily chart indicating to us some sort of range. Again, we've kind of talked about the 66 level and the 62 level. Okay, until that's broken, I would say that we need to continue to be buyers around 62 and sellers around 66. That's kind of what it's saying. That's kind of what it's telling me here. Okay, 4-hour chart. Looking at the 4-hour chart, we're going to go ahead and disable our initial balance here for a moment. We're at the low end of value here for the visible range volume profile, right? So this would be an area, right, that we would logically find buyers, right? Low end of value, discount, right? The expectation is that those that would indicate or provide an area for maybe a possible reversal in this market. Okay, so we're buyers at the low end of the range, sellers at the high end of the range. That's kind of what the 4-hour is telling me, and we are seeing some support here on the volume delta, right? The volume delta seems to be aligned with the possibility of price continuing, potentially rotating higher. Okay, looking at the DMI still showing strength on the sell side, which is obvious given the sell-off that we had yesterday. So the DMI is we have our momentum indicator is sloping up, but still not in strong trend territory. It's registering around 20. We're seeing a flattening of bearish pressure, and we're seeing attempts at an increase in buying pressure. Flat selling pressure, maybe some buying pressure, maybe picking up here at these levels here around 63. Okay, so I would say similar to what I was kind of alluding to here with the crude oil. Okay, I think we are in range, so I'm going to probably most likely give it a neutral rating. I'm just going to take a peek here at the initial balance ranges and see what kind of ranges we've established here. We'll start off with the Tokyo session here and see if we can make sense of what's telling us. We'll move into the 30-minute chart here and take a look. All right, so looking at the 30-minute chart, you can see that Tokyo was pretty much neutral. Okay, very much neutral in this market, right? We broke to the downside of this range, got to the 100% extension before we reversed. And then somewhere during the London session, okay, somewhere during the London session, we got some news, it would appear, that caused the market to sell off. So let's take a look and see what kind of, it looks like we got a break to the downside in London. Okay. Good morning. All right. So again, we poked our heads on both sides of the range here, right? We poked our heads above, we poked our heads below, and now we're back inside the initial balance range for the London session. So again, similar to what we were saying in the gold and in the silver, looks like crude oil is following the path here. Okay, so if I go ahead and open up here my fixed range volume profile just to confirm my view here. So again, you can see that there's our value range here on the left hand side, and crude oil is smack in the middle of it. So again, I'm going to go with a more neutral rating, more neutral to bearish, okay, because that's the last swing, that's the last major swing that we've had is to the bearish side. So I'm going to go with a neutral, right, neutral to bearish rating here, okay. Even though we are getting a series of bullish candles here, we still need to get above 63. If we get above 63, then again, maybe that will allow us to get back to some of these highs here from yesterday. Otherwise, we will probably most likely maintain this range or even head lower. Okay. All right. So that's kind of what I have for you for the crude oil market. I'm taking a peek here to see if there's any questions. I'm gonna kind of encourage folks I see that the like indicator is aligned with the participants that we have here. So we'll go ahead and move on to the equity markets here and take a look at the equity markets. We'll start off with a daily chart. And again, we're seeing of late, I would say of late, we're seeing a little bit more in maybe bearish price action. Okay. So if I'm looking at these set of candles of late, it seems that we are more on the bearish side than the bullish side, right? I'm sure you would agree, right? We got a swing to the downside, right? And then we got a little bit of retracement, and then the sellers looks like picked up where they left off. Now we have a candle that closed inside the range of this bearish candle, correct? So today it feels like, well, we have an inside candle, did not open below or above, right? So it's that's also kind of an indication that maybe that we're probably going to explore the range of this candle, but probably remain inside of it, okay, for the session, right? Will most likely remain inside this range between, let's say, 24,785, maybe to a 24,400. And that's kind of the range that will remain in today's session. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart. Again, of late, maybe getting a little bit of some bullish price action. Okay. Of late, I'm going to go ahead and turn off initial balance. So it stands to reason, right, that we could potentially see some interest at these levels, right? Why do I say that again? Well, again, I see the last time we've actually moved higher. Well, this is the actual location. Are we a bit extended to the downside? I would say so, because that's gotten us to kind of maybe some wholesale or discount areas. Not a whole lot of volume has been traded down at these levels. So it stands to reason, right, based on the 4-hour, that we could potentially rotate back up at least to the 9 EMA. And there's obviously the possibility that we could rotate right back to maybe some of these highs here that we have at 25,000, let's say 400. Okay. Back to this point of control, because the point of control, again, the market is always seeking some sort of balance, right? So once it gets out of balance, it seeks balance. Well, where's the logical place for balance? Well, this area right here around 25,340, 25,350, or this point of control here, 25,327. So from out of balance to balance, right? So would not surprise me in the least if we were to maybe potentially rotate, especially if we are able to break above this 9 EMA. Okay, that could maybe be the little catalyst that we need in order for that to happen. All right, take a look at the 30-minute chart. We're starting to see that price is making its way above some of the indicators that we care about. Right, so we see that price is working its way above this consolidation range. Right, so that could give us maybe some indication that we can at least get up to this point of control, at least, and maybe at that point, maybe we continue the sell-off that we've seen. But this move seemed from 24,800 up to 24,000, say 900, does seem like it's reasonable move for NASDAQ to make here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a look here at the fixed range volume profile, and we're going to go ahead and compare current pricing, right, with yesterday's value range. Okay, and that kind of gives me a view on sentiment. And here we are. We were talking about range. There we have it. Price is in some sort of range. The top end of the range is that 25,018 level. Bottom end of the range is 24,716. So as long as we remain above this value zone, right? This is an area of value, right? Participants see this area as maybe as an area of as a discount area for buyers. If as long as we remain above, then there's a pretty good chance that we have the potential of rotating price all the way back to 25,000. Okay, now 25,000 seems like a logical level because it's a psychological level, and oftentimes there are options associated with strikes, even number strikes like 25,000, 24,000. So it would not surprise me if we were to rally and stall around 25,000. That would be kind of a logical thing for the market to do. Okay. So I'm going to go with I think again a range to maybe bullish on the day session, I would say up to this up until the 25,000 level. At which point I think that maybe the market will stall out here a little bit. So let's go ahead and take a look now at the volume profiles. We'll start off with Tokyo, and you can see Tokyo was pretty much neutral. Right, neutral. We had a small extension to the downside, managed to get to the 50% extension, and then stalled. Okay, so they found this as an area maybe to add to their maybe potential bullish opportunity. Moving on to London. London again is in some sort of range. Okay, so again, kind of continuing the theme of kind of range price action. Now we've had one attempt to actually multiple attempts to get above, and that's been kind of met with selling. Okay, the second attempt has been carried a little bit more weight, but we have yet to get above 24,800. So we'll have to watch and monitor this. But if we are going to entertain maybe to getting to the other side of this value range, we actually obviously need to pick up some volume here, and we need to pick up some momentum in that direction. Okay, so we are seeing a little bit of a flattening in selling pressure. We're seeing our slope on the positive DI kind of grow, but our ADX is up there, right? So saying that the trend is strong. So the question is now is it strong because of maybe the possibility of a continuation move to the downside, or is it strong because of the fact that we are in an area where we could potentially see some buyers that would cause the market maybe to at least rally up to this high end of value and possibly beyond. So there's a lot of repair, I would say, that needs to happen in order to kind of normalize this volume profile we have here on the right-hand side. So it would not surprise me that, again, this 25,000 level on the volume profile, on the fixed range volume profile, is kind of rearing and repeating itself here. So I'm sure that my ADR levels are probably going to be in that same range. So my ADR high here is at 25,136. So again, we have some room to the upside. I would say that maybe not so much on the downside. We have a reading here at 24,550. That's not to say that it can't go down. It's just that the downside has already kind of exhausted itself to some degree. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead now and take a look and turn our attention. So I'm going to go with more of a, I guess, neutral to bullish, I guess. I like the fact that we're at the low end of the value area here, assuming that we can get above 24,800. I do see that there's a possibility that the market could rotate all the way through to the other side of value. But I see that we've been in this kind of range here for pretty much the entire overnight. Okay, so let's go ahead now and take a look at the ES here and see what we can glean here. And again, I just changed charts. I just changed instruments, and it's almost I'm looking at the same thing that I just looked at. All right, taking a look at the daily chart. Let's go ahead and remove some of our drawings. Let's go ahead and turn off our ADR. And again, this is again looking at this 7,000 seems to be that number, guys. 7,000 seems to be a number that the market does not want to get above, right? So looking at this, I can see 7,000 kind of rear its head here. I was going to say ugly head. There it is, 7,024. We've been at this level once, twice, and not even reached it the third time, and before we've kind of sold off here. Now we do seem to have some support down around this 67, 67.70, 67, yeah, 67.50 level. There does seem to be some support there, but all those attempts at support have not been able to drive the market higher, right? So we got quite a bit of resistance here at that 7,000 level. Okay. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart. Looking at the 4-hour chart, we're going to go ahead and turn off our initial balance ranges. We're coming into an area where we should expect to see some buying. You can see on the visible range volume profile that we are in some these areas here, right? These are kind of extended areas, right? Not a lot of volume has been traded in these areas. So the question now becomes, given what I'm seeing here as kind of a pivot, could this continue to serve around this 6,800 level? Could this continue to serve as an area to maybe for buyers to maybe could potentially step into this market? So we're starting to get some price action, right? So starting to get a little bit of indecision here at these levels, not seeing the same conviction that we saw up at these levels. As we approach this level, folks are not as clean to maybe take on maybe some short opportunities here. Now, again, that does not mean that we're necessarily out of the woods here on the bears. It does mean that as we kind of maybe temporarily arrived at an area of support in this market, right? Looking at the positive DI, you see that sloping up, and we're seeing that the selling pressure that we were in has kind of waned quite a bit. Our ADX indicator giving us some indication on momentum is picking up here, right? And we have our maybe buying pressure sloping in the same direction. So that is an indication that maybe we are seeing more buying coming in at these levels. Taking a look at the 30-minute chart. All right, 30-minute chart. Again, 30-minute chart creating a little bit of maybe a bottoming pattern here, right? So if I'm to look at this a little bit more closely, you can see maybe there's a little bit of a kind of a W pattern that's developing here, right? Maybe that's going to offer us an opportunity here for an upside trade, but we need to get above 68.60, right? So while 6,800 seems to be supportive, 6,820 seems to be supportive, we haven't really managed to make a new high, right? So if we are indeed going to head higher, we need to get above 68.60. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the fixed range volume profile. Let's see where price is in relation to yesterday's price action here. So we'll go ahead and drag this to the close of the session here, right about there. Okay, so you can see that we're in the lower end of value, right? So all these attempts of buyers kind of stepping in and driving price has for now been stalled, right? So we got a little selling wick right at that 68.60 level, and now we have a candle that's kind of flirting or around and above the VWAP and 9 EMA, right? So our VWAP relatively flat, our 9 EMA relatively flat. So again, indicating to us that we are still in some sort of range kind of price action. I'm going to go ahead now and take a look at the initial balance ranges across the various markets. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Asia session here and see. Okay, so Asia was neutral to bearish. Okay, London is mainly neutral. Okay, mainly neutral. They did manage to close above the initial balance range, but that was immediately received by sellers. Okay, so if price happens to close back inside this range, well, you know what I'm going to say, right? It opens up the opportunity for a failed auction to the other side of the range, right? From 68.48 all the way down to the lows of the initial balance range. Okay, so that's kind of what we're seeing. So similar to NASDAQ, I was kind of giving it a little bit more of a bullish kind of tint on the NASDAQ, but I'm seeing a little bit more in the way of some bearish price action here of late. Okay. Assuming that we can get below the VWAP. Again, we're kind of in an area of decision. Okay. If we remain above, maybe I can hold out for this W pattern to continue to give me an opportunity to the bullish side. If price closes below my VWAP and below my 9 EMA, I feel like maybe we'll rotate at least to the low end of the initial balance range and potentially extend lower. Okay. So again, I'm going to go with a neutral rating again in the ES. I've been saying the word neutral here quite a bit today. And again, I think that stands to reason given kind of the day of the week that we're in, right? Friday is generally not a day where we get a lot of movement. It's a day of kind of consolidation, right? So if we had a good week, this week, today is not necessarily the day that we are going to make, we're going to necessarily grow our equity curves here. Okay. So be careful today because I'm seeing a lot of signs of range kind of price action here. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take a peek here at the Dow before we do our final summary across all the markets here. We'll start off with a daily chart. Daily chart, we had made some new highs here. And I think I had maybe even mentioned that I thought that the Dow was the strongest, but that was overturned here pretty quickly with this daily candle closing back inside the range. Okay, so what I thought was maybe another leg or potential leg to the upside, well, technically has been broken to some degree. Okay, and we picked up some momentum here to the downside of the market. Now, what it did create is a new area of resistance at this 50,500 level. That's the new area of resistance in this market. So if we are unable to make a new high, then the market is going to do what it does, and it's going to continue lower until it finds some buyers. Now, where are they going to find some buyers? Well, they're at that level right now, right? This whole area here is an area, right? Everywhere from the point we broke that range, this candle right here, this area is an area where we could see some buying come in. Okay. Now the question is, do we have enough buyers to drive the price above this 50,500 level? Right now, with these set of candles, we washed out maybe the hopes of a lot of hopeful buyers maybe in this market. We got a nice bullish candle to the upside, only to be met with indecision. That is not a good time to be indecisive once we break ranges. So we'll have to kind of wait and see over the course of today and maybe into next week and see if we potentially react away from this level back to retest some of these highs. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart is developing a little bit in the way of a bullish candle in an area where we would expect to see buyers maybe lurking. Okay, so this area here is a logical area. This being a 4-hour chart carries a little bit more weight, right? If we are able in the next 45 minutes able to close this as a bullish candle, well, that speaks volumes, right? Because that means that we had some sustained buying for 4 hours, right? That's not and be able to close a candle relatively strong. Okay, so because we are a little bit extended to the downside, so it would again, even though we are maybe more recently in bearish structure, we are extended in that bearish structure. So maybe a move back to VWAP. I mean, not VWAP in this case, but the 9 EMA would not be out of the realm of possibility. We also have this high end of value from the visible range at 49,901. Those are some areas. If I am of the view that this is going to continue lower, these would be some logical areas. The last one that I'm going to mention here is if I can draw my my little Fibonacci retracement, I can look at the 50% of this range up here around the 50,000 level. That could offer me another location for a continuation move to the downside if I am of the opinion that the market is going to head lower. If I am of that opinion, I need to be patient and wait for price to come to a level where I can manage my risk. Selling into an area of demand is, in my humble opinion, not an area that I would want to be focused in on. Okay, moving on to the 30-minute chart. 30-minute chart, again, looks like we may be developing a little bit of in the way of a bottoming pattern in this market. We see that price managed to get to the settlement We're going to go ahead and take a look at our fixed range volume profile and see where price is in relation to yesterday's price action here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move that over here. Okay, so we're again low end of value, right? We did manage to close back inside of it, but only slightly. Okay, so the question now becomes, is this area value area low? Is this going to cause or provide an area for a continuation move to the downside? Okay, right now I'm not overly impressed with the development of the candle here to the bullish side. Right, we got a nice candle to close back inside the range. Now, the expectation is that we would want to see, and again, hopefully, I mean, if I am a buyer, I'd like to see price remain above my VWAP because VWAP is starting to curl higher. My 9 EMA is starting to curl higher. While I would welcome maybe if I'm bullish, I would welcome a move back to 49,461 or 49,450 because that would offer me a location where I can better manage my risk to participate in a long side trade. It would need to hold those levels if I'm going to continue to remain bullish. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the initial balance ranges across the various sessions in the Dow and see what we can glean there. So here's looks like London, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yes, London looks like is making an attempt to extend higher. So we'll have to see if this 45,500 level holds, right? Otherwise, we could be in the midst of maybe a failed auction to the upside. Okay. Asia, pretty much neutral to bearish. Okay. So neutral to bearish in Asia. London, neutral, and maybe possibly bearish, right? So if we do get a candle to close back inside this range, that will possibly cause the market to revisit some of these lows. Okay, so we're again kind of at a decision point as we approach the open of the session here. So let's go ahead now, guys, and take one final pass across the various markets and see what kind of price action we're getting that's developing that could maybe give us some guidance as to what the market could do. All right, so looking at the initial balance range for London here, we see that price is starting to make its way above and break some structure above. So that could indicate that maybe we are headed into some sort of repair of this bearish, maybe overreaction that we got in the gold. That could be just merely an opportunity for the institutions to add to their position again, and maybe knock out a lot of maybe some weak buyers here. Okay, so I was kind of looking at this initial balance range as a gauge to what they wanted to do with price. But the fact that assuming that we can get our close above this initial balance range, and I'll go ahead and take a look at the day session here because we are already in the day session in the gold. Just kind of looking to see, we got two 30-minute candles here. So the initial balance range is going to get established here in about 9 minutes. And we have a relatively strong, okay, two bullish candles in the bullish direction, breaking some structure in that direction. So maybe the market is going from more of a neutral stance to more of a little bit of a repair day here. I'm not willing to say bullish just yet until we can get above 50.90. This seems to be more of a repair. Okay. Looking at the silver market, more of the same. Okay, we're maybe not at the same place, or maybe at as the gold, but it is challenging this most recent high here at 78.90. Okay, if we can get above 78.90, again, I would say that we continue to repair the kind of the gaps that we have in this volume profile. So again, I would say more of a grinding bullish day maybe is kind of maybe developing in this market. We'll have to wait and see and how well we extend these initial balance ranges. Okay. And then looking at the crude oil market continues to be in some sort of range to maybe bearish. Okay. So here we are developing our initial balance range here for crude oil. And it's developing yet again another bearish candle here at around 62.72, and it's kind of left us a little bit of a supply area just above it. You can see This little supply zone. So I'm gonna go with the more bearish view here in the crude oil market. Okay, feel like that the market can continue to the downside based on some of the price action and structure that we're seeing in this market. And then finally, across the various equity markets here, we are seeing some neutral price action here at the moment. Very, very neutral here in the NASDAQ. We have not opened up the initial balance range here. Won't open up here for another 7 minutes or so, but the market has been quite neutral. Neutral, I would say neutral to bearish is kind of what I'm seeing here on the 30-minute in the ES, in the NQ, sorry. And ES is probably much of the same, okay? Neutral to bearish is kind of what we're seeing, developing candle-wise. And last but not least, the Dow. Okay, probably the strongest of the three, to be honest. I see that this bullish candle wiped out some highs here, so a little bit stronger than the other equity markets, but still having some trouble getting above 49,600. Okay, so that's kind of what I have for you guys for today's pre-market review. Okay, happy to entertain any questions. Otherwise, we will go ahead and close off this session as we close most sessions, okay? And that is to trade well, trade safe, trade like a pro, be a market trader. So guys, just be aware. I believe Monday is a holiday. I don't know. I don't believe that the markets are open on that day, or if they are, it's probably going to be an abbreviated session. So if it's going to be an abbreviated session, I will probably pass on the pre-market review, guys. If it and pick up our pre-market review here on Tuesday. Okay. So with that, enjoy the weekend away from your charts, and I mean I truly mean that. Enjoy your time away from the charts. We spend a lot of time, in front of our charts trying to understand and arrive at context of the markets. It's probably a good time to kind of pull away a little bit, pull away from our computer, and get some fresh air and kind of revive and maybe regenerate some of our cells here to take the next week in stride here. Okay. So again, guys, trade well, trade safe, trade like a pro, be a market trader. Have an excellent 3-day weekend, and we'll talk again on Tuesday.